In this video, we'll be looking at some of the basic components of the immune system. This is just a very general overview, and in subsequent videos, we'll be spending more time on the components and the details. So let's start talking a bit about the immune system itself. So the immune system actually is made of two major components that we can think of. The first one, some books and some people refer to it as the innate. Other times it's referred to as the non-specific part of the immune system. The other component would be acquired, and we'll come back and talk more about that. And the name gives you a hint, is that this is that you're going to face a pathogen and you're going to develop a strategy to deal with it, or you may get a vaccine, which would then cause your body to react and develop some type of immunity to it. Now let's look at the different parts of the innate or the non-specific. The first thing we can look at would be the physical barriers. And looking at the physical barriers, not surprisingly, you can think of it: skin, the mucous membranes, saliva, the flushing action of tears and urine, stomach acid. And the main thing about this is what it does is it helps to stop the infection before it enters the body. So physical barriers are very important because, of course, we certainly have a number of bacteria, fungi, viruses on our skin, near our body openings. And, of course, a lot of our cavities face the outside world. So it has a very big role in dealing with these. The other part that we could look at when we talk about the innate are let me just change this out for a second, would be the blood-borne components. So now we're starting to talk about a whole host of things. We can see that we have a number of cells that do phagocytosis. And under there we have things like the neutrophils, the macrophages, the basophils, the eosinophils, and a group of cells called the natural killer cells. And their main goal is to basically kill the dangerous organisms. And of course, we'll go into greater detail as to what each one of these cells does and how they accomplish that. There's also some other components that we could look at that are part of the innate. And one big component is this called the complement system, or the complement cascade. This is a number of molecules that have various roles in basically dealing with pathogens and works in conjunction with other parts of the immune system. And we'll come back to those details. Now, if we hop over to the other side and we start looking at acquired, we can see that acquired has two parts. We have basically T-cell immunity, and that's often called cell-mediated immunity. Also with that, we see that we have B-cell immunity, and this is called humoral. Our book tends to refer to it as cell-mediated, and as soon as you think cell-mediated, think T-cells are involved. And humoral, think B-cells are involved. Now, under T-cell immunity, there's a number of cells. Some categories. We have suppressor T-cells. We have helper T-cells, and then we have cytotoxic. Yes, there are a few other types and subclasses that we could look at. But what's the main goal of these? Their main goal is basically its death of body cells. Now, it may seem odd, but if a cell is infected, say internally with a virus, T-cell immunity can't get into the cell itself and fix the cell, so its only option is to destroy that cell, and therefore destroying, say, a virus from using that cell to replicate it. So we're looking at death of body cells that are infected by the organisms. Now, if we go back over to the B cell or the humoral immunity, this requires that you get exposed to an antigen, and an antigen is something that will cause the formation eventually of antibodies. And a B cell, when it becomes activated in terms of making antibodies, becomes a plasma cell. So keep that in mind, that an activated B cell that goes on to make antibodies is a plasma cell. And it makes antibodies, and antibodies do a number of things. They basically cover say the coat of a virus or a bacteria, or they tag it for destruction by other mechanisms. And this can actually also elicit things like the complement system, which we'll talk a bit about. Now, there are some other B cells. That one group of B cells, which is very important, are memory B cells. These tend to be long-lived cells who basically remember that the pathogen that you dealt with and the shape of its antigen. It's these memory cells that really give you the ability to have long-term immunity. This is so if you get infected by a viral disease, you get over it, you made antibodies. B cells will remember how to deal with it next time it comes in your body. Or this is also the group of cells that really we take advantage of with immunization. By presenting an antigen to the body, we create memory B cells that if that actual pathogen came back into our body, we'd be able to respond to quite quickly. So this is just a very quick overview of the components, and this is a really good place to start. We're going to go into much more detail of some of these components in other videos.